Last thing I'll say is that just a thought experiment, okay? Because I like this. It's a good point. If you had a 2-year-old, okay? It's here. You have a 2-year-old, but now all of a sudden, I want you to use those same arguments. Just because you now don't have money, the 2-year-old may have a bad life. It may get bullied. Would you kill him?
I feel like I would definitely have to come attach to the baby. I would wish more for them. Like, if it wasn't with me, I would hopefully have someone that can take care of the baby.
Amen. There we go. What's your background, don't mind me asking? Are you like, you're half Asian?
Yeah, Cambodian and black. So.
Okay, I'm half Japanese, half white, that's why. See, Asian, recognize Asian. Anyways, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? You can push as hard as you want. I will not be offended. Probably disagree with all of it?
A lot of it.
Okay, let's start one by one then. Which one do you want to go?
We can start with the first one.
Okay, abortion. So, I'm going to give you my take, you give your take, okay? So the definition of murder, you can Google it right now, is premeditated, unjustified taking of innocent life. Now, if you Google right now, when does life begin scientifically? You can, don't take my word, it will say fertilization. Therefore, if we terminate, which is what abortion is, that life after fertilization, that would fall into that definition. I can give you any stat, I just want to educate.
So, I feel like a lot of people who are pro-abortion is kind of like, they're not just saying kill babies. A lot of people get that in their mind. Like, that is, personally me, that is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like those special circumstances, those special situations, if an 8-year-old gets pregnant because they got raped, or if a woman is pregnant and that would lead to their ultimate death, and going through with the pregnancy will end up with them dying.
We'll speak all about that. These are great questions.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you're very civil. I'm used to people fighting me, borderline, wanting to knock me out. So yeah, I'm from Canada. We don't have, you guys, you're more civilized here. Canada, they're not, okay?
What year of the Bible? Because has it not been it's been changed through translation years after years after years.
So number one, these are great points. What I'll say though, as far as, okay, so number one, I want to make this very clear. The bill that I would support is called the 2023 South Carolina Equal Protection Bill, which basically states, because a lot of people get this conflated, they say, David, does that mean I can't have an ectopic pregnancy? So it's born in the fallopian tube. That would always, and has always been legal. If this bill, abortion was murder, got passed, that would be legal. What else? Miscarriages, of course, removing the fetus, that is legal. Where it's illegal, and where I actually don't think abortion is ever medically necessary, is that, here's what I mean. Let's just say the person gets raped, or even maybe she's premature, and if she delivers the baby to full term, she might die. I'll grant that, because it happens. I'm not denying that. What I would say, though, is that aborting the kid or deliberately killing it's never the option. What would be is either having an early birth or an emergency C-section. Now, that kid may die because it's much premature. We may not have the technology today to put it in an incubator. Maybe it's 20 weeks, it's much smaller.
Yeah.
But do you still see the difference between the intent of trying to save it opposed to killing it?
There is also risk to C-sections though. So I feel like it's very situation based. Having a C-section might save the child, it might save the mother. But there's still just as much risk to having a C-section regularly, without any complications with the pregnancy. There's still risk to a C-section, period.
The stat of it is around, it's extremely low. I'm going to say it's around 10 to 20% per 100,000 deaths. So it's about a 0.00001% chance. It still happens, and you can Google all these things. It still happens. But I don't believe that just because something has a 0.0001% chance justifies us deliberately killing someone. In that case, in all cases, I would say don't have sex. I know there's the rape case, which, by the way, just a statistic. And you probably know this, rape, and I can give you all the links, constitutes for less than 1% of all abortions. It's about 0.5% of abortions.
Okay.
And that was taken from pro-abortion websites.
I didn't know that statistic. I definitely agree with,
Go ahead.
if it's not rape or something extreme.
But that's 99.5% of cases, I just want to tell you, they're because it wasn't the right time. I can give you the exact stats. These are from Guttmacher Institute, which is from one where it's actually a pro-choice institute. It's not a pro-life institute.
But even with that, you can, I feel like the better approach would be educate the younger ones to,
that's what we're doing.
Use protection,
Amen, yeah.
That would, of course, be the smartest option.
I would say the smartest option would be celibate till marriage, which I know in 2024 sounds very crazy.
Can people have their own opinion?
And people have their own. Well, that's why I'm a Christian, right? Because I used to be a big fornicator. I get it. I've now been celibate for 4 years. It is possible, right? So that would be the best option. But yes, the next options would always be to take precaution. But even with that, we understand, just like with driving a car, even though I'm safe, I got my seatbelt, I'm good, I'm in the lanes, there's always a chance. And if we have that chance, we have to accept that responsibility opposed to saying, later, kid. So if you have that, then it's fine.
But even on that, like, I'm a biology major.
Okay, good. Let's do it.
So
now they know I'm not picking on someone who doesn't know. Let's go.
So you're saying like, oh, like it's still a baby at this early stage.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's a big
questionable.
That's a big debate.
Let's do it. Push back. No, let's do it.
But the part where you're saying how some people are like, oh, they have an abortion because it's not the right time.
Right.
Question to you, would you rather someone have the baby and the baby grow up through all this hardship, go through like the abuse, like starve, all of that, and then the mother herself not being able to take care of herself, like not providing the environment the baby needs? Would you rather the baby go through that and both the mother and the baby struggle?
This is a great question. So I'm going to throw a couple of things at you, okay? Number one, first and foremost, we're not God, right? So a lot of pro-choicers will bring this up where it's like they're basically putting this child in a situation, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but they're saying this baby will get raped or he will get incarcerated. We don't know this, right? Because, I mean, take a look around. There are people statistically here that were conceived and raped. They're at the university with you guys. So that's number one. We're not God. Number two, to answer your question.
Don't just look at the baby's life.
I'm going to answer I'm going to give you a couple hypotheticals. Number two, I would say, so just the quick answer, no, I would still rather save the kid and have it potentially live a bad life. Because if we look at the suicide rate in 2019, it is astronomically low. I want to say it's like, I don't have the exact stat, but I can promise you, the majority of people, even though they have dissatisfied lives, they actually don't want to kill themselves. Even people in poverty, they're hungry. You think of, that's a different topic, because there is a group that does have a very high suicide rate, but it's irrelevant. And the last thing I'll say is that, just a thought experiment, okay? Because I like this, it's a good point. If you had a 2-year-old, okay? It's here, you have a 2-year-old, but now all of a sudden, I want you to use those same arguments. Just because you now don't have money, the 2-year-old may have a bad life, it may get bullied, would you kill it?
I feel like I would definitely have become attached to the baby. I would wish more for them. Like, if it wasn't with me, I would hopefully have someone that can take care of the baby.
Amen. There we go.
That's not. We have a lot of orphans. Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to touch on.
They don't have.
So this is the one thing I want to say, because I like that you're civil. This is cool. So let me tell you, okay, and you can Google this too. In America, there are 36 adoptive families for every one child. People want babies. This idea that like every kid, it's actually almost impossible for
babies.
Yes, so I'm not talking about foster care. Foster care, I agree, it's not the best. I had a cousin who was in a foster care. It was in Russia. It's not the best. But thank God he didn't get aborted, right? Because now he's my cousin, right? It's just it. But the last thing I'll say is that, but there are 36 adoptive families. So if you don't want the child, the first thought, the media, it's not the truth. The media tells you is to get rid of it. You don't have to hold on to it. You can give it up. They'll give you a ton of pamphlets. Oh, look, this is like Johnny and Chang. Who do you want to choose? Because a lot of people can't. They're too old now.
But also adopting, like going through the process is difficult. I'm not really on good terms with my mother. And so I have gone through like the foster process. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's not like, you say there's 36 families.
Adoptive, not foster. This is different, remember, right?
Okay.
Yeah. It's not born yet, the baby. It goes straight from the womb to the parents. Foster it's neglect laws usually.
Okay, still it's quantity over quality. Just because there's so many, like that family might not be the best. Yeah. Some are just in it for the money to have the children.
I agree.
Some people who do want the baby, just have them born.
Sure.
They also that's expensive. But it's not a lot of people who can. Like babies are expensive. So like if you're gonna have a baby, of course think about that. Like if you're going to go sleep with someone, then it's like there's a possibility of having a baby. I don't think
we're on the same. We have middle ground there.
I think we're on the middle ground on
because
that part.
the only issue with that though is that's the biggest reason for abortion. What you just said. It's they know dang well what they're doing, but because it's an inconvenience, that's the first stat. Not convenient at this time.
But just because of that, you shouldn't take away the option completely from women who do go through other things that abortion is needed for.
But don't you think that they could give up the baby, like we said, to an adoptive family? They don't have to hold on to it. They don't need the money.
But if they carry the baby to full term? What if that causes the mother to like pass. Oh yeah,
a problem.
Causes problems for the mother.
Well, that's what we said though. There's actually you got to show me because again, people don't actually think this through. An abortion is actually never medically necessary. I acknowledge that. Hold on, hear me out. There are problems that happen. They're rare, but they do happen. Again, I want to make it very clear. Ectopic pregnancy would never be considered an abortion, neither would a miscarriage, okay? Because the intent, it was not my intent to put the baby in the fallopian tube. It was not my intent for the baby to die. Murder is intent. It's premeditated, okay? What you would do in these cases, like we said beforehand, is you would either deliver them with an emergency C-section, which is actually a lot safer than an abortion because you Google it, it takes 30 minutes to 1 hour. An abortion late term takes about 1 to 2 days because they have to dilate the cervix, which takes about a day, and then kill the kid and take it out. So a C-section is actually safer. It doesn't kill the kid, and then 2, you can just have preterm delivery. Let's say in the case of which again is very low, but it does happen, a child is young, if it's full term, it might die.
So if the child dies during the
taking it out early, right?
Taking it out early, it would be
Yes, and see, this is where you're right. No one really thinks about this because what's the intent? Is my intent to kill you or is my intent to save you? And because we don't have the technology to this day, maybe some countries do, maybe some countries don't, the unfortunate result is the baby dies. But the intent is different. That's what I'm pushing on. It's actually never medically necessary to have the intent to kill it. But we live, and I'm not saying this to you, but we as a society live in a culture that loves death. And it's taught when any small inconvenience to take it out. Like, God bless, I know maybe you didn't have the best relationship with your mother, but thank God you weren't aborted. You're at a school now, you have faculties to think though and make your own decisions. Mm-hmm. And it's just tricky, and I know you're not saying this, but when we think about it, there are some people here that were conceived in rape. When people bring up the rape argument, it's hard because you're basically what you're saying is your life to this person, you shouldn't be here. And I know you're not saying that, but you see
it's more so when it's like that, you're thinking more about the survivor, the person who was raped, because this one instance, it got them pregnant, and now they have a constant reminder of that, and like that alone already it's already traumatizing.
I want to give you a stat when you're done. Go ahead though.
And pregnancy is also very mentally challenging. Pregnancy is not easy, so even though it's they can just deliver to full term, give it to somebody. That's very simplified.
Who am I, right? No, I do understand, and, I'm empathetic because, as a man, I will never go through that, and I'm not saying that in a gotcha. I am empathetic, but I still, and I want to give you the stat after, I still don't believe that because it's a nuisance or maybe it's tight financially. I value life too much because we don't know Again, the next Einstein could be the guy conceived in a rape. And the one thing I want to give you, this is a stat, I can give you the exact stat afterwards. It's from a pro-life institute. They did studies, it was from a book, of about 200 women. And these women, because it's hard to find these women that either had a baby due to rape or incest, which again is 0.5. This is why it was very hard for them to find. They found about 180 of them, and they asked them their regret or their trauma. About 80% of them said, I regret doing this. So there's an idea, and you're not necessarily saying this, but we're taught that because I got raped, it's traumatic. Having the baby is going to even be more traumatic. You aborting it now subconsciously is going to add to that trauma because you know that you ended that life. Where in fact, if you went through those 9 months and you had that and maybe you gave it up for adoption, you have that sense of even though I got wronged, that rape was horrible, and I believe he should be condemned.
You have very good points.
But hear me out. Because it was horrible, I shouldn't punish the child for the sins of the father. And I mustered through that, right? I kept going, and I gave that baby a fighting chance. Can you just imagine, and I'm trying to imagine, that feeling you didn't let that defeat crush you. So just statistically wise too.
I feel like abortion should always be the last option. So if a C-section or an early pregnancy is ideal, then yes, of course, that should be taken.
Yeah.
But if those aren't, then they shouldn't be stuck with a baby that they can't care for or they didn't want in the first place. I feel like if that is the only and last option, then that should be available to them.
And these are great questions, by the way. I want to let you know, I can see you're hitting every single point. But what I want you to do when you go home, okay, is that a medical abortion is actually never medically necessary. Now, is it easier? Yeah, 100%. You know who loves abortions? Rapists. Why? Now think about it, because there's no evidence. Right?
Okay. I would have to do my research on that part.
But what I'm saying is that, yes, you can get emergency C-section or deliver the child early, which, remember, based on where we live, that child may die as a byproduct, but the intent was not to kill it.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely think that should be the last option, and if there's different options for women to take, those should
Okay,
be
you're much. I almost feel like you were way on the pro-choice side, and this is what we want. We just want to think. I think maybe you're not full on like this side, but like you would say you're a bit more on the pro-life side.
I'm definitely.
Because you're thinking now. You're like, well, hold on. Let me just do the stats
No.
though. So the majority of people, they just it's this like it's like a fast food, right? I just don't want it, and like
It's
hard. It's hard when we value life. Right? As Christians, especially, I'm commanded to do this, right? To rescue those being led away to the slaughter. That's in Proverbs.
No, I feel like I'm definitely still pro-abortion because like I would want that option available to me if it ever came to that.
Yeah. You never know though. After thinking like, if for whatever God forbid reason, we planted seeds, and you never know. 2 years from now, I don't think it'll happen, but like, you might think twice, and that's the whole point. Even if it gives that baby a little bit more of a fighting chance, now you know that there are 36 adoptive families. Now you know that you can have an emergency C-section. Now you know that an ectopic is not considered an abortion.
I would definitely consider those options first, but
that's all we want.
I would still want
you don't
the
have to
last one
change. Yeah, you
available.
don't have to change your mind. And I'll be honest, I don't expect either of us to just change our mind.
But you are making really good points.
Yeah. Do you have any other question, or because that was a great convo, by the way. Like,
I do want to
you were the
hear
most
your-
civil woman I think I've talked to about that.
Really?
I'm not saying everyone else is mean, but like most times in Canada, they not nice, man.
I know what a fucking ectopic
Yeah, I know what it is, and I know for a fact women have died in the United States, and
I almost get assaulted. It's bad. I have like 50 women screaming at me. You get the F off.
I mean,
But you see how like it was civil. You brought good points. Yeah,
I
so
feel like
we can speak about anything else. Go for it.
listening to you also plays a part.
good.
The green one, feminism.
The green one? Yeah,
is
I know.
cancer.
Okay, let's bring this one home because I know it's going to be triggering. This is probably the last thing. So if you Google right now what feminism is it basically states that